Hey guys, welcome to the Lowdown Show. And on this video, I have a returning guest, my friend, my uh, fellow YouTuber. His YouTube is MyNerd.world, and he's the author of a book that we've been talking about last time, Embark. And I believe we talked about the first and second book,
Mhm.
and I just got done with the third book, Embark. And I just want to welcome you and thank you, John, for coming back.
Well, thanks for having me on, man. It's always a pleasure, and I appreciate the invite.
Yes, yes, and I love to talk to other people and engage, and especially you have a book, and we have stuff in common. Like I was saying, we're Star Wars, and definitely, So I was reading your blog, your latest blog, and
Mhm.
even some older blogs, and I found out some more information. First off, the first book, Embark, you actually have a title to it now, right?
Yeah,
Great
so
evacuation.
yeah, the Great Evacuation. So what happened was, and I wrote about this on the blog, but when I went to write the first book, it was just going to be one book. I really wanted to challenge myself to see if I could write a novel. And I loved the word embark. I wanted to keep it simple.
Yeah.
Um, and and I just liked how clean embark was. And I had so much fun writing that first story.
Yeah.
And I had some other stories in mind that I went on and wrote the trilogy, and now I'm writing more books in the series. But writing the other books, and I think it ended up first in The Vanishing War, which is book three. I needed a way for the characters to discuss the event of what takes place in the first book. And so I ended up creating this scenario in book three where the people now just refer to the Great Evacuation. And so um, it was on a whim. Like last week, I was like, you know what? That first book really needs a title. And as I mentioned in the blog, it's the same thing that happened with George Lucas and Star Wars.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, so when he released Star Wars, it was just Star Wars. And then
Yep.
he later, when he decided, oh, I'm going to be able to make, because the original, I don't know if you know this, but um, the original idea that George Lucas had was those first three stories, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, that was all one story that George had written. And then
Okay.
he decided to break it up into three stories. So he added the A New Hope, I think, like a year after the release.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and add the Great Evacuation to the title of the first book. I haven't changed the cover because I recently did a cover upgrade. But on all the listings on Amazon, it says the Great Evacuation, and eventually down the line, I'll put it on the cover. But yeah, that was the reason why. I figured, you know what, that first book needs a title,
Yeah.
and it lays out. I mean, that's what that book is. It is the Great Evacuation with a lot of things happening in it, but that essentially is the story.
Yes. And it's funny. We were talking about that because I just finished reviewing the last book, The Vanishing War, and I probably have to go back. I went and looked back at my other reviews, and I was like, oh no, I didn't put the title for the first one. Is there a first title? And this is like 3 weeks ago. I'm like, oh yeah, there is no first title. But now there is. Now there
Yeah.
is. I'm like, I gotta go back. Cool. I can do my semicolon. So yeah, it was kind of funny. And then you add one on. I'm like, okay. God, do a little bit.
That
But then
worked out well.
yeah, yeah. So last time we talked, you were actually finishing up the audio book for
Mhm.
Embark 3, The Vanishing War. But now it's finished. It's out. People can buy it, get it on Amazon, Kindle, all that. I finished the book, audio, finished it. And yeah, I just want to give my thoughts. Yeah, I liked it a lot. The the whole book really, I've been reading this book as like a movie. So I've been visualizing all this stuff going. And this book, for some reason I liked it. I had envisioned so much action. Did you kind of write like that? Cause it was a lot of action, but a lot of character growth in
Yeah.
everybody actually, even the villain. They all had character growth, and there was just a lot of stuff going on. Like man, I want to see the movie, but
Well, that's what, when I set out to write these books, and it's really apparent in the first book. And as a matter of fact, it's probably the thing that gets complained about the most in the first book. And I'll get back to that in a second.
Yeah.
But with my idea was always that I'm a movie watcher, more than I am a reader. If I could be a film director, that's what I would do. So, since I'm not and can't, so I write these stories. And I'm learning, I'm learning I'm learning and growing as a writer. And that first book really actually reads a lot more like a film.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, you've listened to the audiobook, and the way that I wrote it, it was partly because it was my first book, but it's very descriptive, right? And there's a common phrase in the writing community of you want to show, not tell. And what that means is you want to show the action through the characters and all that. You don't want to just tell it. There's a lot of telling of the action in the first book.
Okay.
So with The Vanishing War, I really wanted to try to craft that book more like a regular author would. I wanted to show more and tell less. And that's even more so the case in the upcoming books. But with The Vanishing War, I really wanted it to be kind of a combination of the first two. That first book is very expansive. It's long. It's an epic. A lot of stuff happens in it. Book 2, Treasure in Darkness, is more of a personal story. And I don't want to ruin anything for anybody, but there's some very personal things that happen in that, and I wanted it to be really about my core characters of Taft and Katha, and those two characters having to go through something that was just incredibly difficult to deal with. The stakes were really high.
Yeah.
When I went into The Vanishing War, I wanted to pull out all the stops. I wanted it to be a big epic story. I wanted the characters to grow. I wanted a lot of intrigue. I wanted some surprises, and I feel like I accomplished that. I'm pretty proud of that third book.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. Knowing all the characters, and there's some more characters that come in. I don't want to spoil much, and and the conclusion at the end, it's like 2 or 3 chapters, right? I mean, they get done, the climax happens.
Yeah.
Obviously something happening, a big war or whatever, and then I was surprised. It was a big resolution.
Yeah.
Like at least like 2 or 3. I'm like, wow, these characters, they're not done. I mean,
right.
The fighting and stuff done, but then you got this laying the groundwork for maybe offshoots and
Well, I really wanted the conclusion and the resolution to be different. And again, without getting into the details, I feel like that the way that this trilogy sort of resolves itself is a little bit different than what you would expect in a lot of these types of stories. And I wanted to do something that was relevant to what's going on in the world today. And again, if you read the story, if you listen to the audiobook, I'm not going to give anything away, but there is definitely a subtext of what's happening sort of in society right now with social networking and truth and fake news and things like that. But I wanted a good sense of finality to that third book. I wanted people to walk away feeling really satisfied that they got the conclusion and resolution for the characters while still leaving the pathway open for future stories. And to that, I'll jump ahead. We'll talk about it. But book 5, we'll go back to book 4. Book 5 that I'm actually going to be working on all week during my vacation. We're going to jump ahead in the timeline about 11 years.
Yes. I read. I read that.
So some of the characters you meet in that third book will have aged quite a bit, and this is going to be really focusing on their story with still our core characters there as well. And as you mentioned before, there's a certain, and we can get into it. I'm sure a lot of people. It's been out for a while now, so I'm not too worried about ruining it. But there's a specific event that takes place to one new character that is the focus of book 4. And the character Gon Corbin that we're introduced to at the beginning of the book, and he's in about half the book.
Yeah.
The 4th book is a spin-off story,
Yes.
and it's just an adventure with him. And it's done. It's being edited.
Okay.
And it's a lot of fun. It's almost a comedy, and I'm really, really excited to get that 4th book out. It should be available hopefully sometime mid-October.
Yes. Oh, and speaking of comedy, and I don't think I've given anything away in this book. I mentioned it in my review. The villain, Ken Argum,
Mhm.
he's a little more comical in this one. I actually had some laugh out loud moments. I was like, wait a minute. Yeah, I know he's menacing. He's really cold, but then he has some like funny comedy, like he does to a guy. Like it's one scene, like, oh hey, Commander, oh I can't hear the speakers or something. Oh, actually I turned it off. And I just laugh. He does that through the whole book. I was like, hey, this guy's a little more comical in this. I don't know if he had it that way, or I'm like, wow, he has a little more dimension.
No, I definitely wanted to insert. I'm a big fan of comedy, and with the radio show that I do, I add a lot of humor to what we do. I don't like to take things that serious. We talk about a lot of serious issues, but I like to lighten things up. So again, with this 3rd book, I really wanted to add in some comedy elements where it was appropriate. There's one particular exchange, probably my favorite exchange, between Sin Argum and one of his officers, where the officer gets confused about executing an order to go and execute people.
Yeah.
And I had the hardest time, because I narrated the audiobook. I had the hardest time doing that section because I kept doing the voices and I kept doing those lines and I kept laughing at myself, and I had to. So I had to keep doing that particular thing because it cracked me up. But yeah, I wanted some humor. I wanted some humor in this, and I'm glad that you picked up on it and liked it. That makes me really happy.
Yeah, I like that. I don't know how much. Can we get into a couple characters or?
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
Newer characters.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, the book's been out for a while, and I think we're all right talking a little bit details without giving away like the ending or anything.
Okay. Well, just in case, spoiler warning. It's not really spoiler warning, but let's just say, so the book it starts off good. I think around chapter 7, it starts to pick up because a certain character comes in, and I thought he was Scottish. Because I was trying to figure out your accent, but
right, yeah.
You know what? I've been to Scotland and Ireland, but I found out it was Ireland. Because obviously his name Balor. And I don't know where you got that name Balor. Yeah, I know a little bit of history on that. Did you Balor? The name Balor?
Ballard McCleary.
Yeah.
You know what? I honestly I can't remember where I pulled Ballard from. I was doing. I wanted to have a different character in there. And I really shot myself in the foot because when I went to go do the audiobook, my wife Melinda kept laughing at me. She's like, "What are you gonna do when you get to Ballard?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm gonna do my best to pull off this accent."
No, it was okay.
Yeah, I had a fun time playing with him. I really did. And he was a fun character to throw in there. And I was glad you picked up on it. I watched your review, and when you mentioned him, I'm like, oh, cool. I'm glad people liked that character because it was different than anything that I'd done in the previous books.
Yeah. I think I know a little bit of the history of Ireland. Balor is actually like a demon god or something. It's a mythological creature that goes back to the Irish. I don't know. Or maybe it's the name you picked out, but I know the name Balor. That's why I studied.
Well, my guess is this is my guess. So to kind of peel back the curtain a little bit, when I wanted to write, I wanted that character to be Irish. I had a visualization in my head of what he was going to look like, and now that you say that, I remember going online and just doing a Google search of like Irish names because I had to do that. I had to do a Google search of Irish names. So that's probably where I found it. And then slang. So I had to find a bunch of Irish slang. So, and my wife, who edits the books and does the editorial edits on it, she was cracking up because she's like, I've never heard any of these phrases. And I go, well, blame Google because that's what they told me was Irish slang. So.
Yeah, I was a kid. Yeah. obviously you had fun researching
Yeah, it
researching
was a good
that.
time.
Yeah. So there are some characters that go in and out. Like we won't spoil the second or the dad. That I was surprised that the dad was in there a little bit. I thought he was gonna be in there more, but he kind of he had his role and then he kind of took off for a while.
Yeah, well, with Valicio, Keitha's father, he
Yeah.
was obviously a huge driving point. He was a huge plot point and a driving force for Keitha in book one.
Yes.
And then the events of book two. Don't want to spoil anything for anybody that hasn't read that, but I wanted to make sure I had him in the book, and I wanted him because of his part and his responsibility with the MacGuffin, which was the device, the cloaking device.
Yes.
I wanted to make sure that I kind of went full circle with him in dealing with the fact that he felt regret for having made this thing that ended up causing so many problems. But inevitably, through happenstance, he finds a way to resolve the problem. I never intended for him to be that central of a character beyond book two. And it was kind of a struggle because he was really important and he is important, but when you've got these space opera stories and so many characters, it's like you got to juggle. And so I made a decision early on. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to kind of close up his arc early in the book.
Yeah.
And then we can kind of focus back on the core characters. And so that's why his role was a little limited to like the first third of the Vanishing War.
Yeah. And definitely all the characters got a lot of growth, especially the two main characters. And there's even like a other side two characters, right? That kind of, I don't want to say fall in love, but they started to hook up, I guess. Yeah, I didn't realize that. Yeah.
Yeah, Gon Corbin and Torian.
Yeah. I'm sorry, these names are, it takes me a while. I love names, but.
So, Torian's interesting because Torian kind of came out of the blue when I wrote book one. There's a sequence during the Great Evacuation where I gave her this heroic moment that takes place when Yellowstone is
Oh
blown
yeah,
up.
okay, I remember that. Yeah.
And there was something about her, for whatever reason, that I kept gravitating towards. And so, in Treasure in Darkness, we get more of her, especially at the beginning part of the book.
Yes.
Oh
yeah, I remember.
But that was a character that I saw because of her age in the first book and her age moving forward. I was like, you know what? I really like her and I want to do something with her. So when I introduced this Gon Corbin character, it provided a really good opportunity to lay some groundwork.
Okay.
With those two characters, and those two aren't done.
Yeah.
By any stretch.
I can tell.
Yeah.
But yeah, I picked up on that. Like, okay, it's another relationship gonna happen in the future.
Yeah. So those two are definitely, well, and the end of the book sets up for that. There's basically sort of one hole left open at the end, and that comes into play in the Gon Corbin story that's being edited right now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah. Speaking of editing, like when you do the audio, is there? I was trying to think because you have all these sound effects and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a limit of how long a chapter could be, or like sound effects? Like I don't know, like it cost more for sound effects. Because I know there's audio that has sound effects and lasers, and so I don't know how does that process work.
So initially, when I did the first book, the reason why I ended up narrating it wasn't because I think that I'm a great narrator or anything, but because so many people know me through my full-time job of being a radio host. I've been doing radio for 24 years. I figured it was a good selling point and an entry point for people to get the audio book because they're familiar with me if I was going to be the one narrating it. And I feel like I do a decent enough job, not as good enough job, and not as good as a job as those professional voice actors, but they're really, really expensive.
I see.
Yeah. So what happens is there's a company called ACX, and they audio something exchange, but they're connected to Amazon, and so basically you work through them to do your audiobooks, and you can either hire a voice actor, which again costs a lot of money, or you can just do it yourself and upload it. So the production work for the audiobook is 100% me, and I had originally intended to do a fully produced audiobook. So it would have sound effects and engine noise and lasers and explosions and soundtracks and all that. Back in 2018, when I started doing the audiobook, I quickly realized that was a bad idea. Because it was going to take I did like half a chapter, and the amount of production and time.
Yeah, that's true.
Way too time consuming. So, long way to answer your question. The nice thing is with the program that I use, Adobe Audition, which I record right into that, it has filters that I can go in there and pick.
Yeah.
So I can just do it on the fly. So when you hear voice changing effects for like the triad or there's a setting, it's actually kind of funny, in the program when people talk comm to comm.
Mm-hmm.
So when people are in spaceships and they're talking to each other, I try to make it sound like they're on the radio, like they're hearing it, right? And it's got that echo and sort of tinniness to it. There's actually a setting in the audio program. It's called old time radio.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I highlight the audio, and it makes it sound like old time radio would sound, but it works really well for communications from one ship to another. So it doesn't cost me anymore. It just, other than time, it just costs me a lot of time.
Okay, that's what I want to know. It's funny. I had a funny goofy dot. Like, remember that Police Academy guy and the guy in Spaceball? That guy.
Yes.
That would do sound. I'm like, I wonder if you can do your own. If you're that.
Yeah. No.
Boop, 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 boop.
Well, that's why it took so long to get the audiobook out, because it takes forever. I mean, the narrating part of it.
Wow.
You know, I mean, the audiobook's about 10 hours long, or 9 or 10 hours long.
8, 9, 10.
Yeah. So it's easily total maybe 3.5 hours per chapter. And there's no set limit. When I write the chapters, I basically just, when I write the book, I break the chapters up on what I feel feels best. It's really just like, this is a good place to stop. And they usually end up coming out about the same. Some are lower, some are shorter, some are way longer, but for the most part, they usually land in that, 20-minute range-ish or whatever is usually where they go. But there's no limit. There's no limit on how long report they need to be.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was just curious a little bit about the technical stuff and recording. Yeah. Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. Definitely. Well, let's see. Yeah. So I didn't want to talk too much about the part 3 because I don't want to spoil anything. Have any other thoughts? But I do want to get to the next project that I was reading online that you had. I think you had 2 books, a prequel as well, and a sequel, or no?
No. We can talk a little bit about book 4.
Okay, book 4.
Yeah. I put out some information.
And I can't pronounce that name, but one.
So it's Gon Corbin.
Okay. Yeah.
The name is my favorite band is Depeche Mode.
Yes, we know.
Okay.
Yes.
So the lead singer of Depeche Mode, his name is David Gon.
Okay.
So I grabbed his last name, and then the guy that handles all of their artwork and promotion, and he's a photographer and artist, his name is Anton Corbin.
Oh, okay.
So I basically took those 2 and made Gon Corbin, and he's a former musician.
Yes.
So that's how I ended up getting that name. So I'll let your audience know. I mean, it's in the title of the book, but the book is called Gon Corbin and the Asteroid of Misfortune.
Okay. Yes.
And so it's basically it's kind of a cross between the Tom Hanks movie Castaway and The Martian. right?
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's basically an
That name.
adventure of Gon Corbin, his AI sidekick Alex.
Okay.
They get stuck on an asteroid based off of events that happen in the Vanishing War, and so that's the story. There's a whole bunch of stuff that happens and
Nice.
a lot of adventures and misadventures that he gets into. It's short. It's quite a bit shorter. It's about 60,000 words, so it's shorter than the second book. It's written in first person, which is different because the other books are written in third person.
Yes, they are. Yes.
But it's a lot of fun. I really am curious to get it out to see what people think, because it is going to be. It's very much an embarked story in terms of the adventure aspect, but it is almost a comedy. The exchanges between Gon and his AI sidekick Alex are hysterical. And I've read it now a couple of times just because I really like it and find it really funny. So I'll most likely be doing the audiobook for that one as well. I was going to hire a voice actor for it, but I think I'm going to go ahead and do this one too. And again, I hope to have that out in October. And then, like I mentioned before, book 5 will kick off a new trilogy. So they'll end up being, for now, 7 stories total in the Embark series. And I'm already 30,000 words into book 5. And on my vacation this week, my intention is to actually finish that book.
Wow.
So I'm really hoping to get that first book in the new trilogy done. But it's going to take a while to edit because we're still working on book 4. So the soonest I could have that out would be probably January, but December, but most likely in January. And I hope to actually have all 3 of the next books in the trilogy out next year. That's my goal. So
okay, yeah, and for the listeners, you can find all the information out on your website, and your blog, right? Yeah, it's all on there. You know, so definitely.
Yeah, if you go to mynerdworld.net.
Yeah, I didn't want to. Yeah,
you find them all there. And when are you? Depending on when you put this video up, this week up until the 29th, so next Saturday, I have a contest running at the website. So I'm giving away some signed copies.
Okay. Yes.
So if you go to mynerdworld.net and you go to the blog, you send me an email and sign up for the mailing list, and you go into the drawing for some autographed copies. I'm giving away a full set of the trilogy and then some individual copies of book 1 for people that are interested.
Wow, there you go. Yeah. I'll definitely have this up by today, anyways. So yeah,
oh, cool.
Thank you for that. Thanks for that information. What else is going on in the So those are your only 2 projects? Those 2? Is there anything else in the pipe work?
No, I'm starting I got my Star Wars podcast, and I'm actually going to be recording that one today. I'm also starting a new podcast based.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so I'm doing a new podcast based solely on the space opera genre.
Yes.
There's no podcasts out there that focus just on the genre of space operas, whether it's TV, movie, or books. And that's my favorite genre. I love everything that's in there. And it's kind of wide and in terms of what is classified as a space opera, but that's what we're going to get into in the show. Is sort of, I'm going to be recording the first official episode for that today.
Okay.
And in that, I'm going to get into sort of what is classified as a space opera, some examples. Every week, I'll highlight one space opera film and run through the bestsellers in the genre in terms of books and what's coming up on TV. I like to do podcasts that I'm of content that I'm really passionate about.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, so Star Wars. I've done a NASCAR podcast in the past.
Okay.
I have a Depeche Mode one that I do kind of on occasion, not very often because there's not a lot of new material. But I had this idea. I was going to do a self-publishing podcast, but I just decided that
I remember that.
I changed it. So I was going to do a self-publishing one. I did a couple of episodes, but I just wasn't feeling it. And then I realized I really want to talk about space operas and content that other people make, not the content that I make. And so that's why I decided to make it a space opera podcast.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. Yeah, there ain't a lot about space opera. And I did watch that video you put on the blog where that one guy, he did go through a couple of 'Cause I was wondering myself, what is considered space opera, what is not. And to my shame, I haven't seen The Fifth Element yet, but
Oh wow.
I better go see it
Yeah, you got to check that
before
out.
yeah before I get you know yeah. But no, mostly I like Star Wars. You actually you actually recommended some stuff for me in the past, like you were saying that Valerian was good.
Hmm.
I watched that. I actually like that a lot.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. What was the other one with the Jupiter
Yeah.
Ascending?
So actually, that's funny because Jupiter Ascending
Jupiter
is,
Ascending. I
yeah,
have that.
that's what I'm going to be focusing on with the show today.
Oh, okay.
That was done by the Wachowskis who did the Matrix
Yes,
trilogy
yes,
and Speed
yes, you
Racer.
did. Yes, you did.
Um, and it's really underrated. It's a really, I actually like it more than Valerian
Oh,
and Fifth
really?
Element. Yeah, the more
Okay.
that I watch Jupiter Ascending, the more that I enjoy that film. And it's very ambitious. It's really really bold in terms of its concepts. But it's a lot of fun and it's a beautiful film. I mean,
Yeah, I
it
love
is
the visuals. Yes, and the
yeah, it is
characters.
a gorgeous movie to watch. Yeah, so I'm actually going to be
Okay.
talking about it today on the podcast and watching it a little bit later on today since the wife's out of town.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Yeah, that one I gave a chance. I'm not done with it because I don't know, maybe time restrict. I wasn't feeling at the beginning, but it did start to get better.
Mhm.
I know a lot of people criticize that, especially the
Yeah,
actor. Or I know Tanning Shannon's in it, right? He's pretty big.
yeah.
Tanning Shannon, that name? Yeah, okay.
Channing Tatum,
Yeah, Tanning Shannon, and then the other girl I can't from the '70s
Mila
show.
Kunis.
Yeah, from the '70s show. So I did get into it. I haven't seen it all yet, but
Yeah,
I think I'll give it a chance again.
the beginning of the movie's wonky. It's a little
Yeah,
weird. The beginning of the movie, it doesn't. The first 20 minutes doesn't really align with the rest of the movie. It's a
yeah,
little, yeah. So once it gets going, then it's like, all right, yeah, we're good. So yeah, go back and check it out again. And trust me, you get past about the half hour mark, and
okay.
you'll be all in.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, great. Yeah. Oh, good. So you got that going on too. Good that YouTube channel.
Hmm.
Um. Yeah. Well. Anything else? Actually, let's talk into a little bit of Star Wars.
Sure.
Yeah, definitely. So what's going on? I'm looking forward to the Mandalorian. That's the only thing real that's gonna happen this year. Obviously, there's
Yeah.
a lot of setbacks. So I'm really, yeah. There's no trailer yet, right? There's no
No,
trailer.
we were supposed to. So the rumor was that we were supposed to get the season 2 trailer for the Mandalorian earlier this week.
I didn't.
But
Yeah.
DC is
Yeah,
doing their big DC
yeah,
fandom
today,
thing
yeah,
today.
yeah, fandom.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they're dropping Wonder Woman. There's new Batman
Yep.
stuff. There's
Yep.
all
Yep.
kinds of stuff. So the word is
Yep.
that Disney decided to, okay, we're gonna wait,
Oh, okay.
let DC do their thing, because next week is when Star Wars Celebration was supposed to happen,
Yeah,
and
that's right.
we get all the announcements at Celebration whenever they take place.
Yes.
Well,
Oh, yes.
since it was canceled, the expectation is that this coming week we're gonna get the Mandalorian 2 trailer, probably confirmation on some other Disney Plus streaming shows. There's word about more cartoons on the way, so I would anticipate that by Friday of next week there's going to be a
Oh,
ton
wow.
of Star Wars information because it's been dry as a desert
Yes. It has.
all year. So yeah, we're gonna be inundated with Star Wars news here in about 4 days.
Yes. Yes. Do you have any expectations to Mandalorian 2, or are you just gonna go in there cold, or do you have any speculations, or anything you
Um,
hope will happen, or
I have a theory.
okay?
I have a
Yes.
theory.
Let's hear
I have
it.
a theory. So my theory, so there's been a lot of talk that Disney Plus is going to try to do kind of what they did with Game of Thrones, but with different shows. So what I'm talking about is there's talk of an Ahsoka show, and a couple other spin-off shows. And so what the rumors are is that there'll be like 3 or 4 separate live action Disney Plus shows that will all interconnect.
Yes. Okay.
So they'll all sort of overlap
Yes. Yes.
in that way. When it comes to The Mandalorian, I'm wondering if Jon Favreau, the showrunner for
Yes.
for the Mandalorian,
Yes.
he's been
Oh,
very specific that he wanted the Mandalorian to feel like that original film. He wanted it to feel like A New Hope, and it does. I mean,
it does.
it's minimal. The pacing is very similar in a good way. Um, I I'm wondering if season 2 isn't going to mirror The Empire Strikes Back in terms of tone
Oh,
in the way that season 1 did, and then season 3 will mirror Return of the Jedi. So I think season 2 is probably going to be a little bit bigger, introduce some more characters, a little bit more character development, and probably darker
wow.
than the
Yeah.
first season. And then the finals of the third season will be, again, kind of more of almost like what I did with The Vanishing War, kind of something that
Yeah.
encompasses the both of the first two. So that's my theory, is that he's actually going to kind of follow the original trilogy in terms of the feeling that the seasons actually have.
Actually, yeah. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. 'Cause, I mean, they're talking, yeah, you're saying the Ahsoka, maybe TV show, Obi-Wan, so they can all tie together, kind of like a Marvel universe, kind of.
Kind of, yeah.
Kind
Yeah,
of,
that's it.
kind of.
That's the word. That's the word.
Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah.
If
Definitely.
it's Star Wars, I don't care, man. I just love Star Wars.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. Give it
Give
all.
me whatever
Yeah.
they want to give me. I
Yeah.
don't care.
Oh yeah. I think a Solo, Lando. I'm hearing Lando.
Yeah, there may be. They're talking about another solo follow up. Might be a series. Might be a movie on Disney Plus. So that might be able to connect. So yeah, there's a lot. We're going to get a lot of information this week. Like I said, it's going to be cool.
Yeah. And last thing, and yeah, I admired your YouTube page show, the channel, your channel, your Star Wars channel, because it's so dried up. But how do you manage to fit an hour? I listened to the whole thing. I'm like, wow, you just basically I guess I don't know. Yeah, how did you do that? Like I know you're going over old stuff and a little bit new.
Sure. When
but-
there's no news,
Yeah.
usually what happens is, and actually it happened this week. When there's no news,
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of other shows, and so if I hear something on another show that sort of sparks my interest, I usually decide, okay, I'll choose that as a topic.
Okay. Yeah. You kind of.
So it's I just whatever I'm feeling at the time and what interests me in the absence of having any real news to talk about. So I'll kind of during the week I'll find the topic and I'll go, oh, that'll be good, and I'll jot a couple notes down and throw it up into a text file and kind of leave it there and add to it during the week, and then when I get to the show, and then I just blah 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 for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So.
No, I love it. I was like, wow, you're still going. And some of my other YouTubers, it's drying up. Even for myself, I'm doing some reactions on different, movies and stuff. But
Yeah.
Hopefully, like you said, hopefully we'll get bombarded this week with lots of Star Wars new content and news. I'm excited. Yeah, to hear
I am
about
too,
that.
man.
Yeah. Well, hey, thank you again for coming on the show and talking about your book. Tell us where you can get it and what to plug into it and how to follow
absolutely.
you.
Yeah, so you can find me on I'm on Twitter. You can find me at My Nerd World or at Jon Justice, either one.
Okay.
And then online at mynerdworld.net, mynerdworld.net. There's a link there to all the books on Amazon. If you search for Jon Justice, Jon, on Amazon, you can find them all there. But if you go to mynerdworld.net, all the links are there on the homepage. And then if anybody's interested in winning some free books, some free signed books, just go to the page. There's a link on the homepage that takes you to the blog.
Okay.
And you just drop me an email, just say, hey, I want in, and I'll add you to the mailing list. No spam. I don't sell your data. It's just for me to let people know about the books. But sign up for the mailing list, and then I'm going to do the drawing will be on the show, on the Star Wars show next week. You don't have to listen to win, but I'll do the drawing for the giveaways on the show next week. And I've got a whole. I have a bunch of author copies, and I just came up with the idea yesterday. I'm like, I should give some of these away. So add some people to the mailing list. So mynerdworld.net.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I'll definitely be promoting that. Definitely. But Jon, thank you again for doing this and coming on and sharing. I love.
Well, thanks for having me, man. It's always a good time.
Yeah, Thank you again, guys. We'll see you guys later. Please subscribe to our YouTube content, and we'll talk to you guys later. Bye.